video, we're going to look at some ideas about types of immunity, which is found in Unit 3 Biology, Area of Study 2. In terms of this, it's all going to come down, first of all, to your knowledge of the humoral immune response and the kind of immunity that it provides. This immunity is all about antibodies. Hopefully you know that antibodies are a product of the humoral response. They're produced and released by B plasma cells, and they're also housed on memory B cells. It's these ones on the memory B cells that provide an organism, or a person in this case, with immunity. Immunity is the ability of an organism to resist a particular infection or toxin by the action of specific antibodies or sensitized leukocytes, which would be our complementary T cells. It's really important in VCE, it's explicitly stated in the study design that you're aware of the structure of the antibody. So as you can see here in this diagram, you'd be expected to be able to draw something similar to this and label it appropriately. We have our light chains, our two heavy chains. They are linked together by disulfide bridges, which are of course part of quaternary structure. Quaternary structure, as we have 4 polypeptide chains joined together here. And then the most important part of this structure are the regions up on the ends of the arms, and these regions are the antigen binding sites. They are complementary in tertiary structure to the molecules, the antigens, which then means that they can elicit or create an immune response targeted to those. It's important as well that we recognise that both of these arms are actually identical in their tertiary structure, or their quaternary structure, at the ends of those arms, those antigen binding sites, and therefore are complementary in 3D form to one specific antigen. This, of course, means that we've surpassed that first line of defense, the passive and non-specific. We've surpassed the second line of defense, which is active but still not specific to a particular antigen. And in this case, we are in the third line, that adaptive or acquired immunity, where we have a very active but also very specific response. Now, this video is really going to focus on how it is that this immunity, or the specific and acquired immune response, has been gained or has been developed in the particular person. We have a few different ways. There's 4 main ways that we can do this, and I'm going to split it into 4 groupings and give you some examples of each of those. So our first separation is going to be using 2 terms that you should be pretty familiar with by now, active and passive. And really, when we're talking about the acquisition or the gaining of antibodies, we're not talking about whether it requires energy or not. We're talking about whether it requires an immune response or not. So basically, has your body had to do the work to produce these antibodies, or has your body got them from somewhere else? We're going to start off with these passive immunity antibodies, so the ones that have not required an immune response. And we're going to split this further down into 2 groupings, so into artificial or natural sources. If we begin with the artificial sources, when we think of the word artificial, you might think of things such as artificial colourings, flavourings, things that have been synthesised and then added to products by humans, so caused by human intervention. That's exactly the same with these antibodies, where we're talking about the production of the antibodies that are then given to an individual and was completely created or stimulated by human intervention. Examples of this include antivenom. For natural passive antibody acquisition, we're talking again about no immune response within the individual who it's providing immunity to, but these antibodies were produced naturally. So the most common example of this is a mother passing antibodies either in utero, so via the placenta, or after the child has been born through breast milk. Those antibodies then can move through the bloodstream of the baby while their immune system hasn't developed and can provide immunity for them. Now, when we do have an immune system that is competent and able to function, then we can get an active response. This involves the antigen or the pathogen as a whole moving through the first line, the second line, and reaching this third. And for antibodies, we've got to have the humoral response. This could be triggered artificially by the presentation or the introduction of an immunization or vaccine, which contains attenuated, so weakened, versions of the pathogen, or just fragments that also have the antigen on them. With our natural side of things, it's exactly what you will have learned in the context of your responding to antigens, where your body comes across the pathogen naturally enters again through the first, second, and then finally your third line of defense to produce these complementary antibody particles, which will then target to destroy and remove the pathogen from your system. As a recap, there are two main types of immunity. We've got our active and our passive. Both of those can be either artificial or natural, and it's important for you to be able to identify and recognize each of those. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and head over to our Instagram for more ACE resources.